Dear colleagues, we continue our working day. Now I give the floor to Presidential Administration spokesman on ATO-related issues, Colonel Oleksandr Motuzyanyk. Good afternoon, everyone. Now the information about the events in the ATO area during the last 24 hours. So yesterday in the ATO area, there were rather intensive military actions. The occupants used different types of barrel artillery and mortars. They launched not tens but hundreds of shells. Today the situation improved, but according to the intelligence service information, the commanders established rather big limits for further 9 days, up to 300 shells of 122 millimeter of caliber. Now about the directions. In the Lugansk area, there were 4 shellings of our positions in Popasnyansky region. That was during dark hours. Heavy weapons was not used. The Donetsk area, there the day started with heavy artillery shelling delivered by the enemy at several areas. And the militants hold heavy weapons just near the front line that is banned by the Minsk agreements. The militants shelled Zaitsevo. They used mortars and artillery of 152 millimeter of caliber, cannons Verkhnyataretska, 122 millimeter cannons of Avdiivka. There they used mortars and cannons of different caliber. Also, they shelled Pivdenna of Terezk City Council Kamenka and Pisky. All these heavy shellings were during the first 3 hours of the day. At that, the militants got into civilian facilities, and in Avdiivka, the mines fell at the cemetery, enterprise, and civilian car that was parked nearby. That happened before dawn, and during the day, in the course of enemy shellings with the use of small arms, a resident was wounded and she was brought to local hospital. And second shelling with the use of large caliber cannons and tanks and mortars. The militants started at the sunset and continued until late in the evening. The most heavy military actions were in Avdiivka. The shelling lasted for 7 hours without interruption, and one of the enemy shellings was really powerful. For 75 minutes, they launched 220 shells. The fire was delivered with the use of 122 millimeter artillery. This was the howitzers battery of the enemy. On the whole, as it was informed, the militants use artillery, the whole battery of artillery. This is in Avdiivka production area and in all Donetsk area. On the whole, in the Donetsk area, there were 26 enemy shellings, including 17 with the use of heavy weapons. And we should note that they launched artillery shells and mortar shells, and the number of the shells reached symbolic number 666. The Mariupol area, main military actions were in Pavlo-Pirshirokina area. In this small area of the front line, the enemy actively used heavy weapons. These are mortars and also APCs. And it launched 80 mines at our positions, so Ukrainian forces returned fire. And we should state that the majority of enemy shellings was during light hours of the day. And at other parts of the front line, there were several enemy provocations, but the situation is calmer there.
So during one day in Mariupol area, 20 enemy shelling were registered, including 8 of them with the use of heavy weapons. Yesterday, 5 flights of enemy's drones were registered. Last day, As a result of military hostilities, no Ukrainian servicemen were killed, but 3 Ukrainian servicemen were wounded. 2 of them tripped a mine in Stanitsa-Luganska district, and 1 person was injured as a result of hostile artillery shelling in Avdiivka. The proven losses of the enemy includes 2 persons dead and 11 injured occupants. New reinforcement manpower arrived to the militants from Russia. 5 railway cars arrived to Ilovaisk railway station. They contain ammunition, mortar shells, rocket missiles, Grad multiple launch rocket systems. To the railway station of Rovinki, 12 tanks with diesel fuel arrived, and 3 lorries with ammunition came to Sverdlovsk. Yesterday, the Security Service of Ukraine detained a militant in Kiev. This militant of the group of Kazakhs committed many crimes in Lugansk region in 2014-2015, and including robbing, smuggling of coal and weaponry. He seized cars and other personal property from civilians, establishing the disorder so inherent to the Russian world. The armed forces of Ukraine continue to improve their combat skills among reservists. Over 1,000 landing troopers completed the final stage of exercises. They have already vast experience of combat actions. The troopers trained along with the transport and army air forces and missile and artillery forces, and demonstrated high level of expertise and battle mind skills. The servicemen of a newly formed police group in Donetsk region have completed combat training. Not so far, 6 base territorial police officers have fast response groups been established. They are titled Typhoon and completed with the best employees of criminal police officers. These days, the policemen have passed 3 days of survival, evasion, resistance, and escape school. Dnipro guardsmen have been trained in tactical medicine. You can see this on screen. Not so long ago, the State Frontier Guard Service of Ukraine started 10 days training for snipers. The goal of these actions is to verify and check the skills of using weaponry in combat conditions. The snipers will learn to fire armored targets, equipment, and live manpower of the enemy at different distances and under various weather conditions. And now the series of questions and answers. Reuters, I have a question. Can you tell us what is the situation from the midnight last night? Can we tell that the ceasefire, as it was promised, it started from 0 a.m. There have been only 6 cases of ceasefire violations, 4 of them near Avdiivka, 1 case in Lugansk, 1 case in Mariupol sectors, and only small arms have been used. As of this morning, we can talk about some kind of de-escalation, but we will see the developments further. Are there any questions? No, there are no questions among the audience. Thank you, everyone. Dear colleagues, the next briefing will be at 1 o'clock sharp.